Hi everyone, welcome to Live Limitless Facebook live chat series. I'm Susanna, the host of the program. Now in this program, I'm going to invite people from all walks of life to share with us their inspiring life stories and insights so that we all can grow and learn together. Now today I'm very happy to have invited my friend Harrison Lee to share with us how he reversed eczema after 10 years. Now, Harrison is an eczema educator using food as a medicine. And as a typical eczema patient, since the early age of 6, Harrison had gone through a lot of steroid therapy, Chinese herbal medicine, and numerous general physicians and dermatologists and so on and so forth. And of course, not working. Now, until 10 years later, he discovered the possibility of using an integrated evidence-based approach by applying nutrition and lifestyle strategies to reverse eczema. How amazing! And since 2013, he has embarked on a mission to eliminate eczema worldwide. And so far, he has reached almost 1 million people all around the world. Now, without further ado, let us bring eczema to come here to chat with us. See you. Wow. Hi.
Hi, Susanna.
Hi, Harrison. Thank you so much to have been here with us and share your life journey. Now, I
Thank you
just
for having me.
mentioned that you suffered from eczema since the age of 6, and I'm curious to know more. Would you like to share with us a little bit more about your journey?
Oh, definitely. So, when I first had eczema, it was around 6 years old. That was maybe in the early days of primary school. And I suppose when you first get eczema, you don't really know what it is, and just start scratching and itching, and your skin gets maybe a little bit stuck to the clothes. That was in primary school. I would wake up in the middle of the night and start scratching. And when I wake up in the morning, there's a little scab there. It's a little dry pus and a little sticky and disgusting. So I told my parents, and they said, obviously, the first thing to do is to go to the doctor. And in Hong Kong, you line up, you queue up, and finally you see this general doctor. You can finally talk to him, and then you realize after they prescribe you with the steroids, which is like a 5-minute consultation. You come out, you put on the cream, right, the steroid cream, and also some aqueous cream, which is basically like a moisturizer. Um, and then for 2 weeks or so, I was applying that every day in primary school, and naturally and magically, the eczema rashes went away, and it seemed like it wasn't really a big deal. It's like a mosquito bite. It comes and goes, but it doesn't really happen like that. And then it got worse once I stopped using the creams. It started coming back again, but this time in more places. So originally it was at the arm creases, in between the joints, also behind the knees, the knee creases, and after the knee creases, it also got to the back of my neck, my waist, behind my back, many different places. So it started getting worse. I went to the doctor again, and then he prescribed me with oral steroids. So steroids, it's very common to hear you have steroid cream, but there's also the oral steroid, which is basically some pills. And I took the pills, and I still remember the smell of the pills, because if you take those strong dosages, when you go to the bathroom, you can smell the steroid from the urine. Like, it's really, really strong. But then in a few days, as opposed to a week, it got away. And I thought, oh, I think this would finally end it for all, because my parents always thought, and I had to listen to my parents, and I didn't know enough as well. It's some form of bacteria. Once the bacteria is eliminated, then the disease would go away. And so it didn't go away. And so that dragged on for the next 10 years or so. It was on and off, cream, no cream. And every day, when I'd exercise, when I sweat, it would start to scratch. I would start to itch. I couldn't really go swimming. And every day in the showers, it would be a nightmare. And my parents thought, oh, maybe I should try. Back then, there was something called 双飞人. which is like a really strong and alcoholic kind of antiseptic thing to put on the skin. But it didn't really work for eczema. In fact, it really hurt. And so that was all the way for the 10 years. And so in Hong Kong, right, because it's very humid, and subtan in Chinese for eczema, it's supposed to be like a wet disease. It sounds like a wet disease. So I was thinking, oh, maybe if I go to a drier weather, a drier climate, the skin disease would go away. And in fifth grade, I went to Australia because I had to follow my mother to go there. And I thought that would probably end it maybe really nicely. And in Australia, it's the exact opposite of Hong Kong in terms of the weather. It's very, very dry, very hot. And so, but it just dragged on continuously. It wasn't really about the weather. I thought, even though a lot of people say it's the weather, but it's not really just the weather. Then at that point, I knew there was something, I don't have to listen to everything that's told to me. I had that realization at that time because I always believed that it's either the weather or maybe the environment, because I also lived in Stanley back then. So it was very, very wet. The floorboards will always be like soaked in water when it's very humid. And so in Australia, that dragged on for 4 or 5 more years until high school. And in high school, I had to follow my mother to go to Shanghai. And in Shanghai, you try Western medicine. Maybe now is the time to try Chinese medicine. So, oh, by the way, at that point, I've tried many creams because every summer I'll be back in Hong Kong. I've tried like CeraVe, Vaseline, all these type of creams from Manning's and from Watson's that you can buy. It didn't really work. I've even tried the ones that's very common in Hong Kong called subtanting, which is like a Chinese medicine formula where you bath in it. It helped a little bit, but it wasn't really like a fix. So when I tried Chinese medicine, I had a 3-month program, which is what they call 疗程. It's like a 3-month thing. Every day you drink 2 to 3 bags of really bitter herbal juice, and hopefully it can readjust my body's temperaments or internal balance. Different methodology in Chinese medicine, and hopefully it will work. I did that for 3 months. I went back. She said, "Oh, you need a longer duration because it's a long-term process." So I just did it. I did it for 1 and 2 years or so. Didn't really work out. Eventually, I just didn't go anymore. Kind of gave up. And so that dragged on all the way to 2013. But in 2013, I was at a point of, I would say, desperation. If at any point someone would tell me, "Oh, I heard this works. Oh, if my friend tried that and it helped a little bit," I would really try it and go find out if it works for me as well. At that point, I was going online all the time, stuck on the computer screen. And I begin to, Google. I basically read the first 10 pages of Google search results for anything that's got to do with eczema. You can imagine that. And so then I read a lot of forum posts. One of the posts suggested that I should try something called a fruit fast, which is, for people who don't know, you eat fruits for 3 days, and that's it. Fruits and drink water. And anything else, you try to exclude it for the 3 days. The rationale behind that is, once you start eating something healthier, fruits, the toxins, some form of toxin, we don't know what the toxins look like, will flush out of the body. And I did that for 3 days. I got my friend to join me, actually. He wanted to lose weight, and I didn't have to lose weight, but I wanted to, restart my immune system. So then we both did it at the same time. After 3 days, we got really sick of apples and bananas, but we found no improvement whatsoever. And so I thought, it didn't really work out, but I'll keep trying anyway. I still remember at that point, that was one of the worst moments of my eczema because I would wake up in the morning, aside from the midnight wake ups, right? In the morning, if I fling my bed sheet, the blanket, I could see like this little like dust storm in my room because that's all my dead skin cells. It was really bad because all the dry skins cells would come off and it would be all over my room. And I wake up earlier than my roommate, and every morning he will always complain, "Oh, how come Shanghai, this pollution is so strong? The dust always gets into our room." And then he will always say, and then he he would get his broom and go sweep the floor for me. I just didn't really say anything about it. He also had a little bit of eczema, so it wasn't too hard for him to accept when I later told him. I think he's actually, I don't think he realizes yet, but that was the point. So every morning I spent at least 30 minutes putting 3 layers of Vaseline. So there was the lotion, there was the petroleum jelly, and I had to put it 2 or 3 layers on top because that's to contain the moisture, you know. And I still remember there were sometimes I didn't take showers for 3 or 4 days because my skin was so dry that if I turned my back like that, it would rip the skin open. It was that dry. And so
Oh,
so I
my
just didn't
goodness.
really, couldn't really have anything to do with it except for just, let it pass and watch it and try anything new that could work. And then I found something called, I was reading about fruit fast, and then I read another thing called a raw food diet. A raw food diet is basically you eat anything in your diet that's not cooked because supposedly you have more nutrition. Um, and then, so the guy was purporting that you should eat raw meat, including chicken, beef, and fish. Eat them all raw. And to me, that was absurd. There's no way I'm gonna do that. Like fruits and vegetables, sure. That was already very strong. So I didn't really follow him, but I felt like there's something because he actually showed a lot of pictures that worked for him. And I believe if I did actually that, but not that extreme, it could help as well. So I went on to something called a water fast. A water fast is basically 10 days without water, with water only, no food. And I did that for 10 days. On the 3rd and 4th day, you begin to stop feeling hungry because the body switches to a mode called ketosis, which is where you burn fat instead for energy instead of the food that you immediately eat. And so I did that for 10 days. At that point, I still had some wounds on my arms, on my creases. And after 10 days, I could see a difference because the difference is I no longer itch. I no longer scratch. I can tell that I scratch much less than on day one. But then, the scabs are still there. The discolored patches are still there. My patches are a little more pink and more white. It's always there. That takes a longer time to heal. But after 10 days, I realized there is something that's got to do with my body in terms of nutrition, in terms of what I put into my body. Because the rationale is, it's like a car, as a metaphor. You put in all the fuel that you're supposed to, and then suddenly you put in another type of fuel, and then the car doesn't work. It's the same for the body. So I thought if I could put in all the fresh food from now on, then it should work. And so in 2013, June, and then for that summer holiday, I was in year 10. I've embarked on a very restrictive diet. People say, oh, maybe you should cut soy, maybe you should cut shellfish or shrimp. But I thought, after 10 years, I'm not going to give it any more time. I'm just going to cut everything possible and just eat the bare minimum of safe foods. So it was very restrictive. The diet goes 80% plants, 20% meat. Plant as in fruits and vegetables, meat as in fish over chicken, over beef, over pork. And then every lunch I'll have like a kilogram of vegetables. Snack I'll eat sweet potatoes and apples and bananas. I'll go to exercise workout every 2 days. Sleep maybe 7 to 9 hours per day. And I also have to cut a lot of things. I cut dairy, I cut sugar, salt, oil, most oil. I had flaxseed oil. I also stopped frying anything. No more gluten, which is basically stuff found in bread and pasta and noodles. I also stopped eating white rice and opted for something like brown rice or quinoa, something healthier slightly. And then and most importantly, nothing processed. Processed in terms of like anything that you find usually in a packet. So no chips, no candy, no lollipops, whatever, that kind of thing. And so I ate this clean for 3 months. On the 3rd month, the end of August, for the first time of my life, my skin no longer itched on a day-to-day basis, and it looks like I don't have eczema. And I no longer had to use steroid creams.
Ooh.
And then the steroid cream, that batch was the last batch I ever had from the doctor before the summer. And ever since, I can control my eczema up to the point it doesn't affect my daily life. So yeah, it's a quite long
Wow.
story.
Now you mentioned safe food, right? Can you
Right.
name some examples of safe food?
Sure. So safe, not safe, it's about whether it's we tend to get allergic to it and whether it's inflammatory. For example, anti-inflammatory foods would be papaya, berries, most fruits, but you know, there are specific fruits that we might want to avoid. For example, let's say we eat lemon is safe. Um, what are some dangerous foods? Not dangerous. Some people get allergic to, let's say, kiwis, because kiwis has this special
Mm,
enzyme that is supposed to um, digest things faster. It has this enzyme in the content, and some people get allergic. So back in the days, I remember when I eat, let's say I cut open the kiwi, I start chewing on it, eating it, and then my lips would go all red around the lip area, and that's would be an unsafe
mm,
choice. So it's not like all fruits and vegetables are
mm,
safe. And then for
mm,
unsafe food would be like, I mean, beef. We try to minimize, but it doesn't mean we can't eat anything at all. Unsafe food would be basically
mm,
anything that, you know, artificial processed.
mm. Now, I know that it's really hard to avoid a lot of food, especially when you dine out. So, what happened to you when you dine out?
Right. So that's very interesting. So in 2013, that diet I had, I cooked every single food item I ate every single day. And when I started school again, I thought forever it will be gone. So I wanted to maintain this perfect, you know, perfect diet. I brought a box of celery sticks, carrot sticks, and some peanut butter. Peanut butter was already a cheat meal, a cheat food because it had like, a lot of sugar, you know, and salt and all that. And I couldn't really sustain it after a week, to be honest. And my eczema started coming back a little bit because my body wasn't used to it. And so I just started eating more and more unhealthy food again. But I did still eliminate the dairy and, you know, all these like extreme triggers. But I had a more lenient cheat quota. I would be able to eat, you know, eat pizza once in a while, but not all the time. And then my eczema was still fluctuating up and down. But then that's got to do with stress at that point in my life in terms of high school exams. So now I can guarantee that eating out is not really a problem. So in the last 1 year, I eat out 100%. So all of my meals are
Mm,
outside. I don't cook a single meal, and yet my you know my skin, you know, it doesn't have any like noticeable symptom, and it just shows that how good the body is adapting to changes. If you feed it
mm,
everything is perfect, then you just keep it perfect. If you have a 20% cheat meal quota, which is what I usually recommend, then I just eat out with friends when necessary for, let's say, desserts. Um, I can have a few alcoholic drinks, no problem. And then once the body tells you, oh, it's too much, the symptoms will tell you. You begin to itch, and that's when you should like tone down the balance. Yeah.
mm. So, what you told us was really helpful. Is that a way that we know what diet, what food, or what drinks that are good for eczema patients?
Mm, that's a nice way to put it. Actually, to be very specific, because triggers, you know, triggers that make people itch, trigger foods that are considered unsafe, all of these things actually change from time to time. So to give a very specific diet
Oh.
would be actually dynamic and hard. So what I did was, you know, I generalized and I have say, oh, just eat more fruits and vegetables. It sounds like common sense, which actually it is. And it's not really targeted for eczema. It can be used for people with psoriasis, people with diabetes, and with a lower carb, and then it still will get better. So I usually just say a guideline of eating healthy in general, and that should be sufficient. Um, but diet is one part, but there are other parts would be like stress. You know, if we're always stressed all the time,
Mm.
the body will also be more likely to trigger, have rashes. If we don't sleep enough, if we drink too much coffee, all of these things will impact. If we don't exercise at all as well, these there are many factors that are playing in a role.
Mm. So I know that you wrote a book or a manual, and can we find what you just shared with us on your in your book or manual?
Yeah. So in that book, I also have this nice diagram that shows the step-by-step process, like as simple as possible.
Mm.
Yeah. I wrote it in a way
Mm-hmm.
where each
So,
concept is 3 pages only.
oh, okay. So later on when I upload the video, is that okay that you share a link or something that the audience can just surf and look at the information?
Yeah, of course. I will share the links to maybe some useful blog posts as well.
Oh, okay. Now you mentioned exercise earlier. What kind of exercise indeed is good for eczema patients?
Sure. For exercise, anything that's, too rigorous in terms of, let's say, you're like sprinting or you're playing basketball, soccer, anything that you have to run a lot and move around a lot, considering them as intense exercise, those would be not so nice because we scratch more. It's more about the physical comfort.
Mm.
So simpler, jogging would be better than, intense running. Maybe going to the gym is
Mm.
actually not that hard. It's actually easier because in a gym you have the air condition, which makes it easier to work out, to break a sweat, but
Mm-hmm.
still not be so uncomfortable. So this would be nice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so in case the audience doesn't know, I am an asthma patient myself. So that's why I'm very excited today to chat with Harrison, and I got loads of questions in my mind. Now, I started my eczema journey, that, if you want to call it a journey, it was when I was early 20s. And so far, right now, it's still bothering me. On and off, on and off. It really depends how good your state is, whether you're stressed or whether you had eaten something not very nice or appropriate. Now, so I do share what you just shared with all of us. And one thing is that I know it is really hard to get rid of eczema. And at the same time, it is very common to have food allergy test. It is common here in the United States. And would you recommend eczema patients to do a food allergies test so that they know what food they cannot eat and it saves a lot of time?
Right. So food allergy tests, I think they are okay. So personally, in 2013, I used nothing. I didn't really have access to it. It was more circumstance, and it wasn't also very developed at that time. Especially in maybe where I stayed, it wasn't in Hong Kong, maybe in mainland China. They didn't really have these services. When in Hong Kong, even today, there's an increasing level of allergy tests. From what I've read online in the last 5 years, from bloggers, people with eczema who tried it, there are so many different types, and number one, they change all the time. The triggers change all the time. So if you're going to get a test, it will be helpful maybe for that 6 months. Number two is not all of them are accurate. So if it's not that accurate, then sometimes you might be confused. Sometimes even though you have a peanut allergy, but then the level somehow doesn't show. It's really confusing. It's very like high tech kind of thing. Will I recommend getting one? I think there's a few that's really well developed these days. I've heard one called the MRT, which is the mediator release test. That's something, I think it was developed by a team of scientists in Oxford. I'm not sure if it was Oxford. They do it really well, and I've read a lot of positive reviews. But I'm not trying to endorse anyone. And then Hong Kong-wise, I've seen a few. There's also one called Prenetics. It's a very new thing. In Hong Kong, on the taxis, they always have the circle DNA. So from what I know, they do nutrigenomics, which is basically using your genes and trying to match your personalized nutrition profile. So what your genes would prefer eating, in a metaphorical way. But once you get those tests, the conclusion is usually the same. You just have to eat more vegetables, more fruit, and less meat. So the thing is, I think it's human nature, if you want to get a test, it's usually because you want to know more about how to be precise. But the time of being precise, you spend so much time and invest so much time, why not just go for the clean cut? That's what I kind of recommend. But at the same time, some people, maybe I'm at work, I'm at a very tight schedule. There's no time for this healthy eating. There isn't really that much choice. then I would say, you don't have to go clean cut like I did. You don't have an entire summer holiday like a high schooler would have. Just start from eliminating one thing at a time. Eliminate sugar. If you eliminate added sugar, and when I mean added sugar, it doesn't mean like fruit sugar. Fruits, you can have them. Even vegetables have sugar, but we're talking about artificial added ones, the unnecessary ones. Lemon tea, fighter soy, um, anything that's particularly sweet, you'll be able to know. Just cut them from maybe 30 days or 21 days, and then you probably see a noticeable difference. Cut one thing at a time. Yeah.
Okay. So it seems that there are some food types that are absolutely no, 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 no. So what you mentioned is like processed food and sugar. And are there any types of food that you said that absolutely no, that you want them to give it a try, cut them?
Well, absolutely no. Well, number one is always a balance, like to minimize. So I would say anything that's, like Coca-Cola, I don't really drink Coke. Anything soft drinks, I usually don't drink them. I almost always don't drink them. Processed food like McDonald's, KFC, it's not going to kill you to have it once or twice per week or month. Okay, per week may be too much, I would say. Once per month, I think it's generally fine. The body is able to adapt and adjust. But if you're trying to speed up your recovery progress, then eliminate the most as possible would be good. Any other no-nos would be, like a definite no would be, let's say dairy. I would say eliminate dairy in the beginning. After 3-4 months of eliminating it, then you can reintroduce it. And that's the point when your body is very used to having no dairy. And then suddenly you introduce it, you can feel the immediate difference if it still triggers your body. If it doesn't trigger your body, then congratulations, it's fixed, right? So
Good point. Now, I'm sure that if our audience download or search the website that you're going to provide them, and then they will know more information about the absolutely no or some diets that they have to pay attention to. And I have a special request. Earlier you mentioned the food test and food allergies test. Can you also type the names of those food allergies tests so that the audience will know more?
Yeah, sure. I'll add a few links there.
Okay. Now, audience, if you're interested why I am connected with Harrison, it was because back in February this year, I got an eczema breakout so badly that I was out of control and was so anxious, so bad. You have no idea how bad, like the whole face and the neck and my whole body and my hands. And I was in Las Vegas at that time and I could not find a way out. That's why I suddenly went back, hey, Harrison is an eczema expert. Maybe I should text him. So I texted you. And thank you very much once again for providing me support and help right at that moment. Now, I share with the audience what I did next. I didn't update you. And what I did next was that when I back home and I consulted a dermatologist, and he gave me two options. One is that you're going to take pills. Oh, well, okay, yeah, I know. And then this second option is that he's going to give me some steroid shots. Now, it is a typical steroid shot and then divided into 2 shots so that, my body would be more balanced, the left side and the right side. And magically, this is something that I never heard of, because I'm also from Hong Kong, and you know that maybe steroid shots in Hong Kong probably are not very common. For the audience who is watching this program, I tell you this is very common here in the United States to have steroid shots for eczema. And in one day, 80% of my eczema through the whole body, the face and everything gone. And 2 days, 90%, 3 days, all gone, 100%. Wow, beautiful. And one thing is my skin was even better than before. And so that's amazing. And I shared with my friends who have eczema and told them that, when you visit United States, go for 1 shot. And then that would buy me at least 2 to 3 months. Now it's 3 months now, almost 3 months now. And earlier last month, it started coming back. Now, what I'm saying is that if I got the shot, I can buy some time to readjust my diet. And the eczema did not come back that badly because I followed your suggestions, paying a lot of attention to my own diet and stuff like that. And it helped a lot. Now, my question for you is that would you recommend steroid shots?
That's a golden question in the whole eczema sphere. So my position, everyone has a different position. Um, so to have or not to have, whether it's a shot, a pill, or a cream, we just need to understand that the steroid solution is for temporary alleviation. You can have it and apply it for the rest of your life, but while you do it, simultaneously, the person should ideally start eating healthier, start reducing their triggers, and improving everything else in their lives. Everything else, I mean, diet, stress less, exercise more, sleep well, and your environment, like pollution, stuff like that, that you can't really control. This is the general framework. If you can improve all of these kind of 5 factors, while at the same time having the steroid shots or cream or pill, then by the time you finish your first batch of steroids, or maybe third, fifth, and once you stop that day, maybe your body is already adjusted to the point that it doesn't have that many symptoms anymore. That's the ideal scenario. So you minimize the pain while still bringing your body to a better state. That position, I would say that's the best position for people who want to, you know, get healthier and also minimize pain, obviously. But for the whole time, I always recommended, you know, just cold cut steroid the whole time. You know, just start eating healthy, and then when the rashes come out, just kind of like endure it. But it's not that easy. I've realized that I was only able to do it because I have the time and the summer holiday. So yes, you can. I would say it will be feasible. It's more reasonable for people to, you know, have a typical work schedule to do 2 at the same time. But understanding that one is temporary and one you have to do it for the rest of your life. Because the other scenario, in contrary, right? Let's say you have steroid creams, which a lot of the people, the problem is they have the steroids, they have it for the rest of their lives. And they gradually increase the dosage because they are required to increase the dosage because they are not fixing anything else. And that's the misconception. Steroid creams are not bad. It's only bad if you have to use it for the rest of your life and you rely on that and you don't fix anything else. That's the biggest kind of misconception.
Okay, I got a question here from an audience here. It said that, so can you talk about steroid withdrawal symptom? Is it a real thing? Some people say there is not real scientific proof on it.
Right. So firstly, you know, medical community, there's a spectrum of understanding on eczema. There's the very rigid medical end, which they don't accept things unless they are very rigorously tested and researched. TSW, topical steroid withdrawal, is one of the few things that are not so well classified. Some people say it's red skin syndrome. On the more natural health spectrum, like homeopathic, they would call it a healing crisis. You know, healing crisis, you have to get worse before you get better. That's what essentially it means. So on both ends, there's like a understanding that you will feel some form of symptoms before related to eczema and before you get better. So which side whichever stance you believe in, it doesn't really matter, to be honest. It does happen. From personal experience, it does happen. In 2013, for that whole year, right? Because actually I didn't just start from the diet. It wasn't a standalone 3-month diet. I started all the way from in the January, I started eating healthier. I already started cutting processed food. But you know, it was a gradual process. And since the gradual process, that's when, you know, my bed sheets, you know, I could fling with all the skin cells in the air. That was kind of a result of, you know, this healing crisis, this topical steroid withdrawal. Most people's the biggest issue with TSW is at this point we've established that we don't really need to care which side we believe in. The problem with TSW is we many people who use steroid creams for a long time, and we're talking about, like, let's say in my case, 10 years. Some people even much longer. And some people maybe shorter years, 5, 6 years, but they use a much stronger dosage. And then their dependency is like rapidly soaring. And so for them, that healing crisis period, for me, it was maybe like a 6 to 9 months, right? From January to July, right? But for other people, because they are not actively fixing all the other factors, it could take from 1 year to maybe 2, 3, 4 years. So on the online sphere, if you simply search about TSW reflections, experience, or blog, journal, there's a lot of that. And what happens is they're talking about, oh, TSW 376 days, TSW 459 days. They don't have the end goal, because they cannot set the end goal. They don't know when it ends. And no one can give you the answer. But what we do know is you can minimize the days you take to get rid of the symptoms of TSW by getting everything else right. So that's my answer to that.
So it seems that most important is still about your diet and your lifestyle.
Yeah.
Now, I personally, thank you very much for the question. So audience, if you have any other questions that you would like to ask Harrison, we welcome all sorts of questions, and Harrison is ready for all sorts of questions. Okay, now I know that some people, they were born with eczema, like started when they were a baby. And I was lucky, or you can say, I don't know whether it's lucky or not. So I started at the age of early 20s. So are the two types of eczema the same or they're different?
So number one, statistically speaking, if you have one parent with eczema, you get around 25% chance of having eczema as an offspring. Two parents, maybe 50% chance, or maybe higher. The number one question is, do genetics determine your future? In my case, not so much. Well, I developed at 6 years old, so I'm not, I didn't start from day one, right? But behind that, there are also people so for people like us, we develop some point later in life. It's an appropriate term would be we're eczema prone, which basically means, once I stop eating healthy, it just comes back and returns. The eczema comes back. And sometimes I like to think about that as, for people who don't have the same situation, people without eczema, who don't develop eczema at 6 years old, 22 years old, something like that, it could be another outcome. They could develop psoriasis, they could develop, diabetes at like 34 or 55, something like that. So I'm not trying to suggest, it's a game of luck. Eventually you're going to get some disease. What I'm trying to say is, behind the reason why these diseases happen or seem to pop up out of nowhere, it is because of the underlying causes of all the factors I've mentioned again. We're not addressing them. When we don't address them so much, then suddenly it results. So can a baby who is born with eczema, can they control their eczema up to the point of remission, up to the point that it doesn't affect their daily life? The answer is, of course, yes. It's just a matter of how much you control your daily symptoms, your factors. And behind this, there's also so much complex factors. For example, there's research showing that what the mother eats before the baby is born also determines how likely the child is going to get eczema. And I don't know too much research about that because it's not in my stage of life yet. And then there's also factors where if the mother provides breastfeeding for the child for the first 2 years onwards, that reduces the chance for the child to develop eczema. And another research shows if the child is born by C-section, cesarean section, as opposed to natural delivery, that also increases the chance of developing eczema. So there are so many interesting factors that play a role. There's also debating research that shows if you feed a child more dairy early on in their life, cow milk, early on in their life, they will, train like a resistance towards later in life. They'll get used to it. But that's still debatable. I can't say anything for now. So there's a lot of many interesting things that determine whether a child will have eczema and live on it forever. But, the conclusion is the same. Control everything else, you'll get better.
I like that. I think that's also the conclusion. Now, as an eczema patient, my skin is super sensitive, and particularly my face. And also because I'm a lady, that's why I care a lot about my face. And I got rash right now, even though it may not be clear to the audience. Thank you. You cannot see them.
Okay.
And I would like to ask about the skincare products, or maybe body, maybe skin overall. Are there any recommendations from you that is good for eczema patients?
Mhm. So for at that point, I didn't really have that many skincare products. My goal was to, I had this like general distaste for anything, on the product. It seemed like they were not natural, but I've come to realize that there are natural products. So what's non-natural product? Okay, so first of all, let's say you go to a store and you get like a CeraVe, Vaseline. Most of the lotions and moisturizers have some form of fragrance, and those are known to be, triggering to the skin. So we want to reduce those types of products, and so that's basically most of the things on the shelves. But I know for places like I was talking about Hong Kong. So I know for places like, let's say in the States, there's a lot of, the natural health, the organic or the healthy products, where beauty products as well, where a lot of the ingredients, you know, if you look at the nutrition label or the ingredients label, um, usually it's around under 10 ingredients. The more it is, if a product takes more than like 20 ingredients, you know there's something wrong. And if you can't pronounce, the general rule of thumb is if you cannot pronounce anything, if you cannot pronounce an ingredient, don't get the
Oh.
product, right? But if it's under 10 ingredients, usually, let's say, and a lot of the ingredients are natural, like examples, shea butter, coconut oil, jojoba oil, honey, which is, antimicrobial, aloe vera. These have natural skin soothing properties. Um, Tea tree oil, these things are for antimicrobial as well. So all of these ingredients can really help the skin. So, we have to do like research about, which ingredient is for what. There are different functions. Primarily, we want to have a 2 to 3 functions. Number one is like tea tree oil. It's antimicrobial. So we just want to, get rid of the bacteria on our skin. So it doesn't aggravate our triggers. It doesn't make the wounds, have infection. That's number one. Number two is stuff like aloe vera. It's soothing to the skin. So we want to be soothing, right?
Oh.
So these are even applying like raw, like you literally just snap off the plant of aloe vera. I've done that before, and you just apply the gel under your skin. That works as well. Stuff like aloe vera, oatmeal, grounded oatmeal, that also works. Very skin smoothing. So you have skin smoothing and you have antimicrobial. Generally, that product should be good enough. And I don't have a specific brand, but specific ingredients. Yeah. So right now I use
I
something,
myself also.
just a
I'm
little
sorry.
quick
Sorry.
share.
Keep going. Yeah.
Yeah, I have this thing called Lucas Pawpaw Cream. Not sure if you've seen it. It's from Australia. Basically, uh, pawpaw. I think there's a slight difference, but it just helps soothe the skin. It's like petroleum jelly from Vaseline. The very simple things that I have. Yeah, please go on.
So Vaseline is not good. You mentioned earlier.
Vaseline for the lotion, not really, because they have a lot of extra ingredients that are not necessary.
Wow. Wow, that's new to me. Because you know that we always believe that Vaseline is very good. Now, wow. Okay, so I guess for audience, if you want to know more, feel free to email Harrison and know more about the product recommendations. Now, I want to move on about ointments, like some kind of, if you're really itchy, I know that it's not good in the long term. We also have to focus on the diet, but then any recommendations that you can give the audience who is really itchy or like me in a rash, what should we do and what we can get from over the counter?
Oh, so to get rid of the itches. So
or eczema in general.
Eczema in general. So from over the counter, like like a quick fix, right? So one product I've actually found very useful. It's something called a chickweed gel. Like I'll type it back in the chat later, but it doesn't the company that used to make it in Australia stopped making it anymore. I think there's another brand that takes care of that. It's called Chickweed Gel. And what happens is you apply on the skin and it has no steroid content. But it's really soothing and it reduces the itch like magic. And it's herbal. That's the best thing. It's an herbal cream. So that's like one product I found useful. Other ones, there's a lot of eczema patients generated products. Like I would honestly, if I had to get a product instead of the pharmacy, I would actually go for people who had eczema and design products for eczema patients. I can list some examples in the chat later. Some examples could be in the States. Actually, States have a lot. Satya Organic, that's from Canada. There's also Organic Eczema Relief. That's American based. Can get it from a lot of stores, health stores. So yeah, these two are pretty big. I think they are the biggest on Instagram. They have like from 10 to 100K followers. A lot of people find useful. Yeah, those I can send a link later.
Yeah, thank you very much because they're very helpful. And I will go get one. You posted the list. Now, I also got recommended to see Chinese doctor, having the Chinese herbal medicine. And I know that you also had this experience. I personally didn't have really good experience. And how would you comment on seeing Chinese herbal medicine, a doctor?
Right. And I know I like to talk in theory and abstract because that's the case. So Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic medicine, or any other system of medicine, as long as they tell you to, eat healthier in general, it's okay. Chinese medicine, they'll tell you to eat less yi, which basically means stuff like oily foods, deep fried. So that, that's common sense, right? So whether it's Chinese medicine, whether it's Western medicine, they'll always tell you to eat less of the processed and oily food. So Chinese medicine, does the bitter juice work? Does the herbal, not bitter juice, I'll describe it as the herbal medicine. Does the herbal medicine work? Personally, I found no real help. In fact, from the limited observations I know from a friend of mine, he used to take very strong herbal medicine because he had really severe eczema. He had severe eczema, not really severe, but in that mix of herbal medicine he took, it's very common for them to have some liver cleansing ingredients, because Chinese medicine has a point where they believe that you need to cleanse the liver, cleanse the toxins. That's the organ, which is true, even in Western medicine. So then they put a lot of these herbal ingredients that will flush the liver. And then there was a point, one day he told me, he started experiencing liver pain. And I was like, how do you even feel pain in your liver? I didn't know you can feel pain there. So then at that point, he knew there was something wrong with the Chinese medicine he was taking. It was too strong. So from what I know so far, I don't know a lot about Chinese medicine. I can't really talk about it. Number one, it just didn't work out too well for me. Number two, it's common sense to reduce the unhealthy foods. And number three is, if you're going to have a mix, you better know what the ingredients are, so you don't have stuff like, liver pain.
Okay. Now, I know we're running out of time, and then I still got a lot of questions in my mind, and I would like to ask maybe final 2 questions. And the second last is that I know you have a mission to eliminate eczema worldwide. Would you like to share your plans?
Sure. So, long story short, from 2013, I started a website, and it reached, in 4 years' time, until 2017, it reached 0.8 million people around 210 countries. But it sounds fancy, but you don't really know if the person clicked on the website and then exited the screen. Does the page view necessarily mean the person fixed and followed through? That was my biggest problem with the number. And so a lot of people also ask questions about eczema, and I can usually combine the similar questions together. And that's the reason why in 2017, I kind of streamlined the process with the book. The book is basically a compilation of all the common questions and answers together. Everything explained in one place. And then I thought, maybe that people can just start buying it and maybe they'll naturally have all the answers. Little did I know I was wrong, too idealistic. Just because you have the book, just because you have the website, people are not naturally going to get really attracted to reading a lot of stuff. Not everybody, number one, people don't know there's a solution. Some people don't know there's a solution. Number two, they don't know you can get help online. Or not so much help, because I think there's a problem with the word help, actually. I think people like to, be more informed, It's kind of like a different word. Because at the end, you can't really help someone to get their stuff right. They have to have this realization. They have to have this point of realization that from all the things I've read so far, from the people that have recommended certain things, it actually worked out for them. I think it is now my turn to try. And this point of realization, this hope, that this sudden injection of hope, I think that's what I want to create in 2018 with my NGO. In October 2018, I sent an email to HKU, on campus, and there's a mass email, and 14 people, including myself now, enthusiastic or want to do something about eczema. They have, some don't have. They just want to kind of follow the mission. The goal is by 2026, eliminate eczema for 1 million people. In the whole world today, there's around 300 million people with eczema. So I have 6-7 years time, and it's not a huge, like a massive goal. That's impossible. At the same time, it's not a small goal that I can just write a few blog posts every month, right? It's not something simple like that. So I have to think about something that's exponential. So I've calculated the simple math. So let's say from now until 2026, I run, let's say, 1 or 2 workshops. And for example, I reach 1,000 people per month. In 6 years, I'm going to reach like 20K, 50K. That's nowhere near 1 million. So I need some form of viral mechanism. So far, I've concluded only 2 strategies. Number one is content marketing. People share videos, share content. But again, when was the last time you saw someone share a video about eczema, right? Or maybe this video can be, actually. And number 2 is some form of product. So people would naturally get product. People would buy it. If it works, they'll recommend to friends. And it is because of this viral mechanism, people will trickle down and spread around. And maybe behind that product that I developed somehow, I can attach a card. This card will say something like, oh, there's a story behind this product. Actually, the goal is not to make you to use the product. It's actually for you to experiment with this dietary program. And maybe if you are willing and able to follow for 3 months or so, and you get better, and just try it and see if it works. So that's what our direction has been in the last 1 or 2 months. For the last 6 months, we were just giving workshops, writing blog posts, Instagram, and all that. But I feel like we're refining our strategy, and so far this is the strategy.
Okay, I wish you all the best. Now, for all the audience, if you like this video, it would be a great idea that you share this video with your friends so that it will help a little bit. Share the good news that we have this young gentleman doing something great for the world. Now, we have a question from the audience, but I think that maybe you can take some time and answer the question later on when we go offline. That would be better. Now, I would like to ask a final question, which is a very general question, is that throughout your whole journey, is there any realization and inspiration you would like to share with the audience?
After that whole diet, right, on first thought, I would say, just keep trying and don't give up. But then it sounds, I come to think about it, that's only in hindsight. At that time, I was more of, I've tried everything. I don't want to give up, but I'm going to have this last dose of hope. Maybe I can try this, try the next thing, latch onto anything that's possible. So it was kind of a desperation. It came out of desperation. But now, that's how I see in hindsight. So I would say for people who have eczema, or what I felt as a lesson for myself, is just keep experimenting. I know cliche, think outside of the box. So I just read a lot of stuff online and tried everything that's possible. Just keep trying different things. That's kind of the one thing I took away from this whole journey.
You know what? It applies to different aspects of life. Just keep trying different things, keep exploring. Yay. Now, thank you very much, Harrison, today for sharing so many great ideas and your life stories and your insights. I personally learned a lot. I'm sure the audience also learned a lot from you, and wish you all the best. Please keep this journey going, and I hope that more and more people will benefit a lot from your help. Now, bear with me for a few seconds. I would like to give a little bit of promotion for our next guest speaker. So our next guest speaker is Betty Lee, who is a professionally trained classical music musician and also a singer. And she is going to be with us next Monday to talk about how she has found her voice. So for those who are interested in singing, or you want your children to learn how to sing, or in general you like music, please watch our program, and then I will see everyone next Monday 2 p.m. Pacific time. So thank you very much, Harrison, once again, and you will have a little bit of work to share with us all the other information offline.
Thank you for having me. I'll post that in the comment section.
Okay, thank you very much. Bye bye.